Hey Ash, how you going this week?
Good morning. How are you?
Yes, I'm very well. I actually wanted to chat with you today. I saw a Facebook post. I can't remember if it was on the property management community page. Oh no, it was potentially on your page that you mentioned and you posted a news article in there about someone calling out bratty landlords or greedy landlords. And yeah, I feel a similar way to you about the situation, but I was just wanting to find out, your perspective on it and what kind of backlash you got from. Do you posted a TikTok as well about it?
I did. Yeah, someone dared me to post it on TikTok, which I admit I did it very safely because I know how to trigger people on TikTok and how to do it in a way that people aren't triggered. Yeah, I am really sick to death of people calling landlords greedy. And my
Yeah.
argument is probably about 6, 7, 8, probably about 8 years ago in the WA market, we had a 30% drop in rents. And you know what? Our landlords, some of them questioned it, but no questions asked, reduced the rent because they had no choice. They
Yeah.
had to renovate the properties because it was so competitive. Like if your house wasn't renovated, you weren't finding a tenant. It was really, really tough for landlords. My problem is, and what I said on this article, is that I'm sick of people calling landlords greedy for wanting more because no one called them generous when they reduced their rent 30% to meet the market rate. They did it. And it's really like I get a real bee in my bonnet about it because it is it's just such a cycle and it's very easy to blame. And
Mm.
the landlords aren't greedy. And I don't want landlords to feel pressured to keep their property, really, really low. Like, of
Yeah.
course, and I'm the first to, I love philanthropic investing. I think that if you can afford it and you've got that relationship with your tenant where you can give back, absolutely, you do you and whatever's comfortable for you. And I've actually got quite a few philanthropic investors on our portfolio because we actually have a focus on that as well, where these owners have, for a reason, got their property rented out to very vulnerable. To vulnerable families, and they keep it very low, below market rate. And
Yeah.
they can do that, and it suits them, and that's what makes them feel good. That's fine. Like that's one section. But for owners that are struggling financially, and last week we talked about the landlords that are really struggling financially, don't feel bad about increasing your rent to market rate if that's what you need to
Yeah.
keep the property. And I actually, like last week, we had two landlords that have wanted to sell their property because financially they're finding it really tricky, and they've actually given notice to their tenants to vacate, and then they'll sell it when they've moved out. Now, that's not a good situation to be in, and
No.
if it meant that you could have just got the market rate in the first place, that's another investment we're keeping in the market. I feel like the tenant, I feel like renters and tenants are uneducated from that point.
Yeah.
I feel that it's easier to blame a landlord because generally your rent is the biggest portion of your budget. But that article was a classic example of a young girl who was probably 25, who had her lashes done, had her potential
Yeah.
Botox done, had her hair dyed, looked beautiful. And then the comments were, well, if you stop spending so much money on Botox, then she could probably afford the rent. And I guess that's really where it comes from. We've all got different priorities. Now,
Mm.
she has chosen to prioritize, and everyone's got the right to prioritize whatever they want in their life. She's chosen to prioritize that, but she probably doesn't value rent or value,
Security.
correct. And I mean, each to their own. That's everyone's personal preference.
Mm.
But she chooses to prioritize somewhere else in her life. Now, that to me is frustrating because the rent is really what should be prioritized right now, and those other things.
Yeah.
those other things altered, like we said last week. You know, I don't get my lashes done anymore. I don't get my hair dyed regularly. I don't get my hair blow dried regularly, because that needs to wait for a few years until.
Yeah, you've got bigger goals that you're prioritizing. You know, at the end of the day, I think those kind of articles, one, I hate the mainstream media. It's trash. And the stuff that goes on there, it's just it's so divisive.
Yeah.
It divides people, and it divides them into a group of, like, you know, tenants and landlords, and they're against each other, when, you know, most landlords, like we spoke about last week, they're struggling, the cash flow is super tight, everything is negative. Like, find something that's been bought in the last 2 years that's not negative geared. They're having to wait 12 months for the cash flow to get that back at tax time. And housing is not a, you know, it's not, they've had to sacrifice to get in that position. So, you know, it's not a given right in Australia. Do I think everyone should be, you know, have a house and have a home? Yes. But, you know, the people who have gotten in those positions, like my husband and I, we sacrificed for years and years and years of just shit to get to the position we're in now. And, you know, no one saw that then. And then now we're in this position and we saw the vision. And yeah, but that doesn't make us greedy, that we want a life of freedom and security for our family. And yeah, it's just decisive, like divisive. I don't know,
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
get that word right, but it's just dividing people.
Yeah, it's it definitely pays to make good decisions in life, and this is personally and professionally. Like, you have to
Yeah,
make good decisions. You need to know what the next step is. It's not being a renter and owning a home is no different to being an employee and being a business owner. You know, the business owner, eventually you're going to get the perks of having the business. And if you are an employee and work for someone, you are always going to be restricted, you know, with your pay. You're going to have to, you know, ask, you know, there's always going to be those, you're not going to have that same potential, are you, as
yeah,
potentially a business owner? But the business owner or the investor are the ones that put, you know, take the risk and
yeah.
and potentially do the late nights. And, you know, there's many landlords that have two jobs to pay for the investment. It's it's no different to that employee business owner renter landlord relationship. And I just, like, I mean, I could go on about this forever.
Yeah, so could
Yeah,
I.
anyone that gets me at a barbecue, honestly, like.
Oh, I unleash on it as well, because I find it offensive to, you know, it's not just, you can't group people into a whole group and say all landlords are bad, all renters are bad. It's like, I've got tenants that pay $1,500 a week and are extremely successful. And then I've got landlords that have one property they're currently renting, and it's just a unit in Woodridge, and they're trying their best to keep above water. So you can't group people into those kind of broad categories of greediness. And, you know, the victim mentality is not doing anyone any favors in Australia. Having that mentality of, oh, well, you're this, so you're better off and you should give to me. Like, people should be empowered to make their life better. And, you know, you'll reap what you sow. If you complain about, you know, if you're not working towards something, and you're, you know, spending a lot of recreational spending on going out and getting your lashes done and those things, it will show in 10 years that you have nothing, because you've dwindled it all away and not had that vision. So it's, everyone makes their own choices. And yeah, there's plenty of landlords that are struggling. And there's also, you know, like you said before, go back to 2015, 2014 in Brisbane CBD. I worked in the actual CBD area of it. And we were like, 2 weeks free rent. Like you said, you would have, you, there was no getting away with like slightly dodgy apartments. It's like, they have to be nice, and they'd be on the market for 8 weeks. Like, if we got it rented in 8 weeks, it was like, oh, thank God it's rented. And we were giving away all kinds of stuff and huge vacancies. So you get the bad with the good, like anything.
Correct. I mean, even like going back to even the business owner, I remember there were, you know, we've obviously had the business for 20 years, but there was a time where Bill and I, we had to take pay cuts. We had to reduce
Oh,
down because times were tough. Like that wasn't our employer's issue. We did that. So it's those risks that we take as well that that is what we are, I guess getting rewarded at a later stage. Maybe it's through capital gain or whatever it might be. But the other thing is on a personal point of view, why are we so why do we see success as such a negative thing? Like, why are we not striving to earn more money,
Yes.
to have nice things, to have 20 houses? Like, why is that not a good thing? And why are we not celebrating that? And why are we letting a minority of people potentially dampen that and make us feel so guilty and rude and bad for it?
Yeah, the tall poppy syndrome in Australia is awful. Like, we actually had we were at a barbecue a couple of weeks ago, and we had forgotten that we hadn't told this group of people that would bought 5 properties last year. And it just came out. And then that's what my husband said. He's like, oh, well, I'm just going to tell you guys because, like, I don't want to dampen our stuff. And, we started talking about it. And it's like, it should be, encouraged for you to be successful. And it shouldn't be like, oh, you're doing better trying to bring them down. It's like, oh, how can I learn off you? Because you'll find most successful people want to teach other people. It's again that greediness. It's not about, hoarding it. It's about like having an abundant mindset of like, we've gotten to this point. We want to bring you along on the journey if you're prepared to do what it takes. So yeah, it's all that mindset stuff. I love that.
It's so good. Now, this is, I hope I don't get crucified for saying this, but I was out for dinner with my mum about a month ago, and one thing that we were talking about, and it grinds on me every single time I go out for dinner. The restaurants in Perth are so busy. Like, they're booked out, you can't get in. And so every time I walk into a restaurant, I would say to my mum, why the hell are people complaining about the cost of living when everyone is freaking out having dinner and lots of money? Like,
yes.
it's so infuriating.
It's so true.
Is that the same in Queensland?
The shops. Oh my God. I hardly go to like Westfields and those shops. And when I do, I'm just like, get me out of here. Where's all like everyone's there with like full bags of stuff and, just recreational spending. And it's just like, so where are all the people struggling? And even I see tenants who, they're falling behind in their rent. And then there's McDonald's everywhere and KFC everywhere. I'm like, KFC, it's expensive now. That's not a cheap lunch.
No, that's right. And it's we've got an area down in Perth in the southern areas, and I keep on threatening that because all the tenants down there aren't paying their rent. And I said, one day I'm going to go down to their local pub on a Saturday night. I'm going to see how many people are down there because they're all whinging about, the cost of living. I want to see how busy their restaurants and pubs are, because if they're busy, I'm going to be really shitty.
Yeah, exactly. I've asked for a bank statement from a tenant in arrears once, and she had Uber Eats like 5 times in the week. I'm like, I don't even get Uber Eats. I drive to the shops and get takeaway because I'll save the $10 on the delivery.
Yeah, that's right. So where I wanted to go with that is what I was talking to my mum about is that you've got high income, middle income, low income, and then I'll use a 4th category, which is a government payments, sort of, on central. Yeah. The high income, they just do their thing. Middle income, I find middle income, and we'll talk about that one first. They tend to be pretty reasonable. They've had to cut a couple of costs, like your hair, blow dry, and things like that. So, but they've managed their stuff, so they're still okay. The low income, interesting enough, from my experience with our rent roll, which is quite vast over a big area, low income actually have made really great tenants for us, because what I find with them is that they are working, they are hardworking, they're in blue collar jobs. But one thing that's vastly different is that if something needs to be done around the house from a maintenance point of view, they're the type of tenant that will call me up and say, hey, Ash, the tap's leaking. Do you mind if I change the washers, or do you mind if I do this? And if they can do it, they'll just go down to Bunnings and fix it. And the mentality behind them, I actually think, is really great. So low income from a tenancy application for me is actually okay, because all that it means is that they're very mindful of their spending. They, like I said, they work hard, blue collar jobs, but they might, only go out for dinner once a week, or maybe McDonald's is their treat for the week, or whatever it is. So, but it's the people that are not working and are on some sort of government benefits. Now, disclosure, there are genuine payments. I fully accept that. And there are people that genuinely need a disability pension, Centrelink, and all of that. However, I do find, as a general rule, sometimes that stigma also comes with an entitlement mindset, because they're getting paid. And like I said, I mean, people might crucify me for saying that, but there is a big difference between government payment income and low income people when it comes to a tenancy. So from a property manager's point of view, it's about the attitude behind that. So genuine, fine, but there's also some disingenuine ones.
Of course. And, I think same as the age pension, I might get crucified for saying this, but that's a lifeline, honestly. You shouldn't be relying on the age pension for when you retire. It's absolute poverty what they get paid in Australia. And you shouldn't be relying on government benefits. Is there a time and place for those? Definitely. There's plenty of disabled people, and the NDIS and that whole scheme's great for people in that situation. But people who rely on it as a lifeline, it's not enough to survive, or it's just enough to survive, no thriving. So they need there's a lot of work that needs to go into that area to shift that mindset, because we have a lot, obviously Logan's quite low socioeconomic up here, and there is people who it's multi-generational that just live off that. And it's there is a underlying entitlement that comes with that.
Yeah, it's working really, it provides a lot of things, not only potential, and again, we talk about the next step, like you need to, if you can work, then you need to go get a job. Your potential will increase over time. And I know sometimes it can be really hard, because some people might say, well, I could earn, as I'll use a single mum, because I am one, and I know that when I actually did the figures, I actually probably would potentially earn more being on Centrelink and not working. And I've got a few friends who had the same thought. They would earn more not working than working, or maybe it was the same. So they chose not to work and take the government payment, which sometimes you need to do. But I know, sorry, it's such a sensitive topic, isn't it? But if you think about the long term, don't you want to be working, even if it is the same as what the government payment would be? But and yes, you are working 40 hours a week, but the following year and the following year and the following year, you're going to have a little pay rise, and you're going to progress in your career. And, having that working attitude, that's one.
Well, it's the question is, what is your vision for your life? A lot of people, not everyone wants to have businesses and investment properties and have that kind of lifestyle. And, there's people bigger than that who want to have private jets and those kind of things. And then there's people that are perfectly content to, work at Coles or Woolies for their whole life, which if that's what you want, there's nothing wrong with that. So just making sure that you're, happy and going for what you want and what kind of lifestyle that, you aim for. And I suppose there's always going to be people wanting different things to each other. I don't really know what my point with this is, but different people want different things, but you shouldn't be settling for just surviving. I think that's like, let's aim to thrive. And you're going to get that self-gratification from work. Like, I've always been a big hard worker. I actually like working, so it's not a problem. But yeah,
if you do settle for comfort, or just for surviving right now, you can't, like, that's going to make your future really, really difficult. Like, don't we all want to work really hard now so that we have an easier future? or do we want to have it really, easy now and have a hard future? So that's sort of where I have my mindset is like, I'd rather, work my ass off now, and then hopefully
Yeah.
my future should be a little bit easier, and the future of my children should be a little bit easier as well. That's my goal. But I think people choose a very easy option now. But you are dependent on people. If you're dependent on a landlord, you're dependent on the market, you're dependent on so many things. I hate being dependent on something I can't control.
Yeah, and it's probably similar. Like one of my highest values is like freedom. I want to be free from the matrix and society. So it's like, yeah, I'll do what I need to do to get in that position. So yeah, interesting. It's very interesting looking at society and the different attitudes that, come with the different groups of people as well.
Yeah. So hopefully no negative comments on the bottom of this video. They're just personal opinions of Jackie and I. But it's very interesting conversation. We'll leave it there because I know that I'll probably end up saying something that I will get in real trouble for if I
know. We'll get something clipped out and taken out of context. So yeah, thanks for watching anyway, guys.
See ya.
Yeah.